Hi, this is Ken Parker, welcoming you to Common Ground, the policy roundtable where we bring together a panel with diverse views on issues of concern to Newton residents and try to hammer out some of our differences. For those of you who are new to the show, let's review the rules. First, I introduce a topic. Then we go around the table once, with each panelist expressing a viewpoint. I then select the two panelists who disagree the most and ask them to speak directly to one another in hopes of finding some area of agreement. At the end of each segment, I give an assessment of how we did at finding common ground and put in my 2 cents on the topic. And for reasons that should be extremely obvious, given the wide shot everyone has on their screen, finding the two panelists who disagree the most will be quite easy for me this evening. We have two fabulous panelists. Let me introduce them now. Emily Norton. Emily, it's so great to have you back on the show.
Thank you for having me again.
Emily, of course, as frequent viewers of Common Ground and as Newton residents generally know, was a city councilor for, was it 10 years?
10 years.
A full decade on the Newton City Council, ward councilor from Ward 2 from Newtonville, and I think it's fair to say was the leading environmental advocate on the City Council.
One of many wonderful
one of many, first among many. and also, what used to be the head of the Sierra Club in Massachusetts and is currently the head of the Charles River Watershed Association.
Right.
Executive director, is that your title? Is there anything I'm leaving out of your bio, Emily, that we should be mentioning here?
Those are the important points, probably.
The important points,
Yep.
okay.
Yep, I'm an excellent speller.
Okay, well, there we go. Well, you should have proofread our lower thirds before the show.
Oh, no, was there an error?
No, I was asked how to spell something, but I'm pretty sure I spelled it right. So I think we're good on that front. Anyway, so it's great to have you back on the show. Is this the first time you've been back on since you were off the council, or was
I was on once.
Once more as a former councilor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does it feel to be off the council? And
Feels good.
yeah, a little more.
I
having
love
those
the service. I really, really love the service. Was honored to serve, but for me, it was a good thing to do for a while, and then step off and give someone else.
Yeah,
a
no,
turn.
I think it's great to have that experience. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone should be forced to serve in local. I mean, should have the opportunity to serve in local government for a while. We all have to do our time. Anyway, well, Dan, great to have you back on. This is your second time on the show, I think.
That's right.
So, Dan Ruben, you're a college professor. Is it at Boston College?
I teach now at Boston University.
Boston University.
Southern Maine.
And pertaining to this show, though, you are intimately involved in the advocacy side in Newton of environmental issues. You're the chair of what they now call Green Newton, right?
Green Newton.
Used to be the Green Decade Coalition, then it was it's gone through a couple of different.
Two. Green Decade to Green Newton.
Okay.
I also lead our Building Standards Committee.
So you have a little role in the government. That's a City of Newton government.
Role.
Yeah, so a very important role. But I mean,
I'm an advocate.
You're an advocate. Your primary role is to advocate for environmental causes within the city. Okay. Well, we could not be better prepared then for our theme for the night, which, of course, it's April. And as Emily knows, because she's been on this show in April almost every year for the last decade, I'd say, it's Earth Day celebration. Not quite Earth Day today. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about 3 environmental-related topics today. And I think we're going to start with this Birdo ordinance. Now, Dan, when you were on before, we talked a little bit about it, but it's not to be confused with the electrification ordinance. Right. This is which pertains to existing buildings or new buildings. Electrification is basically the ordinance that says you build something new, it needs to have
or major renovation.
Or major renovation needs to be electrified, which sounds really cool. Electrifying things.
Cool.
Yes. I mean, it sounds cool in another way, different than the way it's actually cool, but never mind that. The other ordinance, the one that passed more recently, Birdo. First of all, what does Birdo stand for?
The Building Energy Reporting and Disclosure Ordinance.
And what the heck does all that mean?
What it means, thus far it applies to buildings over 20,000 square feet.
So these are existing buildings in the city of Newton that have to do something under this ordinance. It's a local law, and it says, you own this building, you've got to put a flag in the yard. Now, what do you have to do? If
For new buildings, they don't have to worry
because they're already covered by
already going to be electric.
Right.
So what the existing ordinance says is
the ordinance that just passed, the Berto ordinance.
The Berto ordinance says that buildings over 20,000 square feet, first I'll say commercial, then residential. For commercial buildings, 20,000.
Did they exempt the residential, by the way? I know that was a big controversy.
Residential is going to be for reporting only for now.
Okay.
It'll be revisited in several years.
So my understanding, though, is that there is a requirement for the commercial buildings. What is that requirement?
Well, the requirement first is for reporting, and then roughly every 5 years there is a higher and higher standard regarding the amount of greenhouse gases they could emit.
We're talking greenhouse gas emissions here.
In other words, the fossil fuel that's burned.
Okay, so the reporting requirement, just to be clear, is to report how much greenhouse gas emissions that building is generating in the form of how much fossil fuels it's burning. Is that right?
Correct. Now, in Newton, as compared to Boston, in Newton, we're not asking anybody to report what they purchase for. It doesn't matter if they purchase renewable or not, because
electricity,
the Massachusetts grid is already over 40%.
So just to get to the basics, though, all right. So right now, someone's got an office building in Newton, say. Okay, my office isn't an office building in Newton. I think it's over 20,000 square feet. Whoever owns that building at some point is going to need to start by reporting how much heating and cooling, what their heating and cooling energy costs are. Is that right?
What their use is of fossil fuel.
Just a fossil. So electricity doesn't count. Do they have to report their electricity use?
I believe they just have to report their fossil fuel use. I'm not positive.
So if they're already electrified, they don't have to report anything. Is that right?
I believe that's right.
So they're burning oil or gas to heat. They have to report that. And then after a certain amount of time, they're going to have to start hitting some targets.
They'll have to start hitting some targets in the 2030s. And
2030, so we're talking like a decade from now, maybe.
Probably, I believe the first ones are around 2032 for the very largest buildings, and every year more come on, more have to report.
And for the residential buildings, you were saying it's only the reporting requirement. There is no.
It will be revisited in a couple years. That's right. They only have reporting for now.
For now, there is. So even though these targets are way out in the future, right now, or these requirements that affect commercial buildings are way in the future, they don't. There are no currently legislated requirements for any residential buildings in the city.
In terms of action, not.
And are these only privately owned buildings that are controlled by this, or what about City Hall? Do they have to do anything?
Yes, absolutely. All the city buildings are a part of Berto. Also, in fact, they have said that they will comply with the entire regulation by 2040 rather than 2050. But there's one piece.
I'm saying 2030. What's 2040? What's 2050?
So this is an important part.
Okay.
So up until 2050, there are efficiency regulations that have to be hit. You have to burn less and less fossil fuel. By 2050, you have to get to zero. What that means is
zero. So you cannot be burning any oil or gas by 2050.
Right. Yeah.
All electricity.
What that means is you have to, if you have a building that burns fossil fuel, you have to convert to electricity by 2050.
And that's only for commercial buildings and city buildings, not for residential buildings.
As of now, but it'll be this decision will be revisited.
Right. So basically, the city council punted on this. Emily, that never happens. They never punt on anything, right?
To be fair, they got a lot of pushback.
Yeah, from the Chamber of Commerce, among others.
From the large multi-unit
residents of the big Chestnut Hill Towers or whatever.
Bingo, and others.
How did I guess?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm no longer on the council. I didn't get
to be disrespectful. There are costs associated. So
well, there are costs for everybody, right?
Absolutely. So I don't judge anyone for what they did, but we do need to get off fossil fuels.
Right. And to be clear, this ordinance, as written now, I know it can be revisited, has no effect on any building that's less than 20,000 square feet.
That's right.
No reporting requirements.
That's right.
So even if you have a 19,000 square foot office building or a 19,000 square foot house, if there are any that big in Newton, I don't know, I think.
Probably not.
Probably not. Or apartment building or whatever, they're totally exempt from even any reporting requirements.
Now, let me just say, that's true, but that doesn't mean it will be true forever.
Right.
This was what City Council did, which was a really big deal. There are only 2 cities in the States that have done it before us, Boston and Cambridge. What they did is enact...
What about Brookline? Are they still considering it? They haven't passed it yet?
They have not passed it. So what City Council did was pass a big regulation that is going to enact heavy costs on these building owners. I happen to support it. We have to do it, but this was a heavy lift.
Okay, so one more question about this, or maybe 2, I don't know, but one for now. Anyway,
Sure.
Which is, how is the implementation going? I know this thing passed, and you were on the show, in fact, right before it was voted on. It then got passed, and I know there are things that are supposed to be happening. There's a commission that's supposed to be appointed. Where are we in all this? Is it on track?
I believe that it's moving forward slowly. I think one thing to remember is we lost 2 of our 3 sustainability people in our sustainability department. Those positions have been filled recently.
Are you saying that department was not sustainable? No, sorry. Or we failed to sustain it, and it's anyway. Right.
But I think I know it will be moving soon. That we will be developing the regulations because we need to.
So there's going to be a commission appointed. As I understand it, it hasn't actually been appointed yet, or?
It's being formed. I know that because I was asked to be on it.
People have been asked, but the city council, as I understand, the mayor has not forwarded the names to the city council yet. You haven't gone before a committee to be considered. You haven't sat in front of Emily's successor.
To be grilled.
Right. So so it's moving, but not at lightning speed. It sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, the reporting regulations aren't for a couple years. I don't think it's problematic. But yes, it is beginning to move forward, but no, we have not written all the regulations.
And they're talking
yet.
about hiring some staff to manage this program?
Yes.
And that presumably will take some time to find the right person or write the job description or whatever they're, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important job. It's a serious hire.
All right, well, thank you very much for enlightening me and our audience on where all this is. I want to bring Emily into the discussion. I know you worked on this among other issues over the course of many years.
It was introduced while I was on the city council, but I didn't have a chance to vote on it. By the time it was voted on, I was off.
So you were part of that discussion for a while. Let me ask you this: are you happy with the version they ultimately passed? Do you think?
I think they did the best that they could. This is difficult, whether it's in our own lives with, updating your boiler, switching to an electric car, moving away from a gas stove to an induction stove. These are hard things to do. And you brought up the building electrification ordinance, which I was proud to lead on, and we did get through. And even though that was only new construction and major renovation, so we're not ripping anyone's
By the way,
gas stove
what
out of our house.
do you remember what constitutes a major renovation?
More than 50%.
More than
of the
50%.
footprint. But I had on my Facebook page people coming on, don't you take my gas stove. We were not going to take anyone's gas stove. But it's just a reminder that people have a real attachment to the way they live their lives.
Emily, you've been taking away people's stuff for years. You took away their plastic bags.
Their nip bottles. That's true.
You would have been like, what? I'm coming for your...
Thanks, Ken.
Well, our recently retired state representative, Ruth Balzer, we used to tease her because she was both the ward councilor from Ward 8 and very good at constituent services, as ward councilors often are.
Of course.
And was also the chair of the Public Safety and Transportation Committee. And so lots of people would come forward with requests for stop signs. So our joke was by the end of the time she was on the city council, there was a stop sign on every corner. So she was putting in the stop signs. You were taking away the nip bottles. I don't know.
We have to have a legacy. So.
Yeah, right. It just reminds me of that level of effectiveness, though.
So no, I think this was a heavy lift, and Newton did the best that we could, and I think it's an example for others to emulate, and I hope others do follow. But it's not. There is more to do. If we're really going to be serious about getting off fossil fuels, which we do need to do, then this is the path forward.
So obviously we can revisit this topic again as this thing gets implemented and we start to get some data, because there's reporting requirements. It's going to be very interesting to see how we compare, and whether, I know you alluded to this, Dan, but there is this theory that simply having to disclose the amount of fossil fuels you're burning may encourage at least some building owners to beat the deadlines, right, and want to be out in front on this. So
I think only at least the threat of enforcement is important. So if they see it coming, at least they'll have the data and they'll know. But one thing.
Well, we'll just look at the example of the residential buildings. It will be fascinating to me to see whether they start to reduce their fossil fuel usage, even without that stick, just with a measurement.
In Boston, they started by just asking for reporting, and they didn't see a lot of improvement, and that's why they went to setting targets that must be reached as well. So perhaps for the residential, knowing that the city is interested and might well.
They might try to preempt that by saying, hey, we're already making progress.
It's also important to know that if
Or they might just try to do the right thing, right, Dad? No?
Well, it's also important to know that if you're a building owner, you have a long time frame to consider. If your boiler has 8 more years of life, excuse me, you might decide in another 7 or 8 years, I will electrify if you know you have this target.
That's exactly what I'm thinking is, like for city buildings. I mean, I was on the finance committee and we would get these requests to replace the old, it was like some old kind of semi-rusted boiler and it's on its last legs. And that was always the question is, do we want to just convert the whole system over to something that's more efficient and more environmentally friendly? And it seems like you might actually save money in the long run by having something more energy efficient. I mean, in other words, there could be an economic incentive for these building owners to comply even without the hammer falling on them of the requirement.
In some ways there is. So energy efficiency improvements often have a good payback. Excuse me. It's not you, it's me. Energy efficiency.
Sorry. Take a moment and get your. Let me ask.
You cannot collapse on this show,
Yeah, right.
although it could help with ratings.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we don't want to embarrass the other shows.
Give it another try. Energy efficiency often has a good payback. 2 years, 5 years. You put out $100,000, you save $30,000 a year, so it's not such a big lift. Converting a building not built for electricity, for electric heating, hot water, cooking, to convert that over to electricity costs money, and it doesn't necessarily have a payback.
You might not have the right venting systems or whatever else, right?
They may not, they might not have the right infrastructure, the right spacing, and so this is a real cost. It's a real cost for building owners, and it's something that's good to have a long time.
So what I do recall, and Emily may remember this too, is there was some analysis done of city buildings where we found, at least in some cases, that there would be a payback over the course of the lifetime of the changeover in the system. And it might have been from one kind of fossil fuel system to another in some cases, and some of it had to do with insulation and whatnot and putting new windows in. But even though it seemed like a big capital expense at first, healthcare and energy were our 2 big drivers of what we were calling our structural deficit, meaning things that were going up faster than our revenues. And to the extent that we could get energy costs under control, I mean, you remember this, Emily? Am I just hallucinating here?
Yeah, no, we've come a long way. Our new school buildings are electric. I know that when it came to the new Cabot School, we were told, oh, we can electrify most of it, but not the gym. There aren't heat pumps, if you will, which are called VRF for the commercial space. There aren't any that can handle anything that size. Thanks to my day job at the Sierra Club, I was like, I don't think that's accurate. So I put the city in touch with someone from Mitsubishi, and indeed, in New York and other places, it was much more common to be using these VRFs, and we ended up moving ahead with that for Cabot, and I assume beyond there. That was the only school building committee that I served on. So anyway, I know we're going very far. I don't have the numbers fresh the way I used to, but I want to say that close to half of our municipal use is now solar powered, if not more. I mean, people have seen more of the roofs, more of the parking lot, solar canopies.
I remember you had a big controversy over that at one point because a couple of trees had to be cut down for some solar panels.
At the library.
And you were what, a tree murderer for a little while, right?
For a little while, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you know, I hate to cut down a tree ever, but if you're going to be putting solar up, I personally would like to maximize parking lot solar over swaths of forest.
You made
in
a very
Western
persuasive
Mass.
case at the time. Like everyone's initial reaction is, don't cut down a tree, but if you can plant some more trees somewhere else and
Yeah, we
put the
actually
solar
lost
panel.
the vote the first time around, then we came back 2 years later. And
I remember it well.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you got it through. But I also remember a certain gender dynamic in that vote. Do you remember that?
It's funny you remember that. So this is the only time, including when I led on changing the name from alderman to city councilor, this was the only vote where almost all the men, so it was all the men except for Jake Auchincloss, voted against the solar panels at the library. And all the women, except for two, which I won't name, voted for them. It was stark.
Some things you remember. Like I remember certain votes, like on the smoke-free Newton ordinance in my first term in like the early 90s, right? You remember how everybody voted on those things.
You shouldn't. You should really move on.
Yeah,
But
well, it was memorable.
anyway, and so it was, I want to say the vote was like 15-8, but then after that, we did come back, and so I'm glad there's the solar panels there.
Yeah.
And it's also
So-
really nice. If it's
so your
raining, if
colleagues-
it's snowing, your car is protected under the
My
canopy.
grandfather used to use a great word to describe people in this. They may be wrong, but they're educable.
I'm sure people have said that about me. So it's all, it's all good. Yeah.
So anyway,
We'll do a show of counselors and former counselors about votes they regret.
votes they regret. You know the Leanne.
Times I was wrong. Yeah.
And so that's yeah. That would be an interesting show if people were willing to admit to
anyone-
it.
yeah,
If people would own up to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's move. We'll just put my 2 cents in on this topic real quickly. And I think I've said something similar the last time we talked about it. But yes, it is painful to go spend the kind of money that Dan is talking about to redo a building. And it's also painful to spend the extra money it costs to do something to your home or with your car, or even just to take the T instead of driving. All those things are painful. But what they're not.
The tea is not painful. The tea is awesome.
Okay.
Okay.
It's when it works.
love the commuter rail.
when it works.
Commuter
it's-
rail is great right now.
When it works,
Okay.
it's awesome.
Yeah.
When there's a rainstorm and you're sitting there in a packed train for however long, in a tunnel and you can't even get out, not as awesome. But what I'm saying is we all have to make personal sacrifices because the alternative is much more painful.
Exactly.
That is a future in which we have cataclysmic environmental disaster. We lose cropland, we have fires and smoke, and we enter a cycle where permafrost is melting in Siberia, where smoke is forming a layer that traps more heat in, and we artificially destroy the habitability of our planet. And since we don't really have a good backup plan, as much as Elon Musk would like to go to Mars, and by the way, I would welcome him taking that trip, that doesn't seem like a viable option for at least most of the 6 or 7 billion people on the planet now. So
we're over 8.
Is it over 8 already? But I haven't checked recently. I'll have to recount. But my point being, this is really an existential crisis, and
there are costs to all those disasters that you
yeah.
talked about.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, you think about it. And we'll talk about this later in the show. The cost of air pollution, for example, in terms of public health and in terms of your inability to go outside, air filters and everything else, even when it happens for a period of a week or two because there's wildfires, the productivity of the economy, everything suffers tremendously, and there's it's an incalculable cost if we lose farmland and we can't grow food, because that's a human loss.
Right.
You just aren't going to have enough food to feed the people that are living in the country. So all kinds of costs that we do not want to pay in the long run. It's hard to think about them when everything seems so swell now, but and I think some people, by the way, would rather say, oh, science will solve that down the road, or that's somebody else's problem, because it's so hard. But now that we know, forewarned is forearmed, and we really have to start taking action now.
That's right.
Let's go to our second topic. Topic number 2. Water. Specifically, love that dirty water, or is it still dirty? I remember when I was a kid, we would go to the New England Aquarium in Boston, and they had 2 tanks. They had lots of tanks, but one little display had 2 tanks, and the first tank was this beautiful, pristine water with all these fish and turtles and things, and it had Charles River 100 years ago. And then the next one was brown and rusty and icky, and there was like nothing living there, except maybe some kind of moldy, slimy-looking stuff, I don't know. And it said Charles River Today. And I remember, I think I was in college at the time, when they added a 3rd tank, and it's Charles, that was like, they relabeled the second one, Charles River circa 1970-something, and then Charles River Today. In the 3rd tank, there were fish again. So there are fish living in the Charles. I don't know if one would want to eat them, if if one weren't a vegetarian, of course. But you know what I mean, if they are bloated with mercury or whatever, but there are things living in the Charles again, thanks in large part to the Clean Water Act and local efforts here in Massachusetts. Emily, you're on the forefront of those local efforts now. How are we doing in cleaning up the Charles that circles 3/4 of the way around Newton, that has from Arbondale Cove all the way around Upper Falls, Lower Falls? How is that water? Should we swim in it? Should we drink it? How are we doing?
I wouldn't drink it.
Wouldn't drink it.
Wouldn't drink it.
Should people who eat fish that are caught in it?
Wouldn't recommend that either.
Wouldn't recommend that either.
But people do.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of mercury warnings and other health risks. So the river is so much cleaner than it was when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I'm a little older than you. I remember when it
like
smelled.
a week or something?
A few years, actually. I just look young. I remember when the harbor was disgusting. At one point, there was 9 feet of sewage in the Boston harbor. Like, it's almost unimaginable how, it really was just the toilet for the greater Boston community.
So appealing.
Isn't it
9
disgusting?
feet of sewage.
It was
like, I love that it's not 10 feet, though. It's like, we kept it under 10, damn it.
I don't know who made it.
Can you imagine? Is that an average, or is that?
I don't know. Fascinating book. I can recommend about it, where I got this from. So it's much, much cleaner, and a lot of the reason is we've really clamped down. We don't have slaughterhouses putting everything in there anymore. We don't have industrial dumping anymore. And a big one was you don't have sewage releases anymore. So
There used to be a pipe. Before we built the Deer Island sewage treatment plant, they were literally secondary, theoretically filtered sewage was being dumped into the harbor. Now they make these neat little fertilizer pellets on Deer Island.
Yep. But there still is raw sewage going into the river in the Cambridge and Boston part of the river. So where we are, there's no combined sewer systems anymore. We've really done a good job of putting the little cameras into the little pipes to make sure that the stormwater only has stormwater, sewage only has sewage and goes to Deer Island. It is still the case that we have to keep monitoring it. Sometimes you'll have a new project or a do-it-yourselfer who will connect a sewer pipe to the stormwater pipe, whether on purpose or by accident or whatever. So you have to stay on it. But the biggest, the sort of 4 main threats that I talk about related to the river is stormwater runoff. So every time it rains, and it hits a paved surface anywhere in the watershed. There's 35 cities.
Stormwater runoff, okay.
Stormwater, but it's for people to understand, like, what is that? When the rain hits your paved surface, your
So you want more
roof,
permeable surfaces because you want them.
let me get to describe the problem. When it hits the roof, the sidewalk, the road, whatever's on that paved surface, your gasoline, your oil, your salt, your silt, your fertilizer, your pet waste goes straight into the storm drain, straight into the river, no treatment. So a lot of people don't really think about that.
On that issue, you know who was out front on this for many years? George Mansfield, who recently passed away, I guess it might have been a year or two ago now, year and a half ago now, used to talk about this, I'm telling you, like decades ago, and he would say, let's put permeable surface in, and people didn't even know what he was talking about at first.
Well, people still don't know enough about that. It's called green infrastructure. Basically, what you want to do is be diverting water, instead of going down a storm drain, divert it into an area where it will infiltrate into the ground. Soil actually cleans water on its way to the groundwater. So if anyone's ever been to the Ascend marijuana dispensary, if you look at, seriously, I mean, just driving by, whether you visit it or not, the parking
Where
lot
is that?
has this,
Is that in
it's
Newton?
in West
Washington
Newton.
Street.
It has, yes, and Andrea Kelly and I worked very hard on this so that most of the stormwater is captured on site. It goes into this green area. It just looks like beautiful plants, but it's actually
Oh, I know what those plants are.
this is just regular plant, not marijuana plant.
I'm kidding.
Native plant. So that's the kind of thing we want to do more of. Permeable pavers, bioswales, where you're directing water instead of into a storm drain. So that's stormwater.
So one of the
runoff
things
is
we
the
used to talk
biggest threat.
about, and I don't, tell me if this is a good idea, but instead of having a walkway or even a driveway that was a hard paved surface, you would have something that could basically absorb some water.
Anytime you can replace pavement with natural cover is better. Rain garden, sort of a divot in your own lawn where the water goes there instead of into the storm drain on your street. Stormwater is the worst thing for the river right now, the #1 threat. It causes
Really?
the growth of invasive plants, which crowd out native species. It's not what the flora and fauna want to eat. And you've got cyanobacteria, which you might, blue-green algae, not just in Charles, but in our lakes and streams.
Because of the fertilizer?
It's not just the fertilizer. Gasoline, oil, anything that has phosphorus.
Oh, okay.
Fertilizer is one source, but it's not the only one.
Okay.
And a lot of times people think, oh, well, my property's not near the river, so I'm okay, but it's the entire watershed.
Because
Even when I
it
show
all
maps
goes
of
down into those grates in the street, into the storm drain.
when I show a map, if we had a map, just pretend there's a map of the watershed up right now, there's 35 cities and towns, including Holliston. The river doesn't even run through Holliston. So who in Holliston thinks that they are affecting the health of the river? But every paved surface in Holliston, there's a whole city of stormwater pipes under our feet, and they direct water eventually into the Charles. That's what a watershed is all the cities and towns, their water goes into the Charles, whether it's through culverts, whether it's through existing brooks and streams. And so that's the biggest threat. The #2 threat is the sewage that's still going into the river. Every time there's a big rainstorm in Cambridge and Boston, I was on Jim and Marjorie last summer, and I was able to say, so all of you here in the Boston Public Library, that's where they tape, anytime there's a big rainstorm and you go flush from the Boston Public Library toilet, it goes into the Charles directly, and people are horrified. And that's because they have old pipes there that they have not separated. So that is one of our big campaigns. We call it very subtly the Cut the Crap campaign.
That you could use that name for so many different things that are happening in our country.
So many
That's
in the
such
world.
a great.
But cutthecrapcharles.org, people can go there and learn all about that issue.
Cut the crap, Charles.
The third big threat.
Not talking about the King of England, different Charles.
Different Charles, yes. And then the third one is dams. There's still hundreds, no, not hundreds, dozens, I would say, of dams. Over 100 is what I meant to say. On the main stem of the Charles and tributaries, those are bad.
Are they bad? They're all bad?
They're
not?
all bad. Well, the ones that serve a purpose, we don't want to get rid of those. The one that at the Zachem Bridge that makes the lower basin, we're not going to get rid of that one and turn the Charles.
What
tidal
about the
again.
one in Elliott down in Upper Falls?
Does not serve a purpose.
So you would get rid of that if you could.
Yeah, so two active campaigns we have. The native
Why
dam.
did they put it there in the first place then?
Some of them is for recreation. Some of it was to power a mill. I mean, these are old. The Watertown Dam was built 400 years ago.
Wow.
And it's still there, not serving a purpose. So that's an active campaign.
Is that expensive to get rid of them? Why don't they just do it if it's...
They don't do, it's not even the cost, it's more just inertia. Like,
Really?
yeah, it's just infrastructure and people forget about it and they move on. It's no one's job to focus on it. And a lot of people if you live
And so why are
near
they
one,
bad? What?
They block fish passage. They cause thermal pollution. They heat up the water beyond what is healthy for fish and the little bugs that live there. They are dangerous if they breach in a storm. You know, an unplanned breach is a really bad idea. You have more cyanobacteria. The dissolved oxygen
When you say
levels.
breach in a storm, even if they break.
Yes, yes, because the bigger rainstorms we're having from climate change, these were not built for that. So a lot of these, so the one I'll give you an example of between Wellesley and Lower Falls, that dam, my organization did a public records request for that dam and found that it was rated in poor condition, unsafe. that if it breached, there'd be properties downstream that were affected. And I was like, wow. So I reached out to the city attorney for Newton to say, sorry, the city engineer for Newton to say, what are we doing about this? And he was like, nothing, first I've heard of it. So
Wow.
the Department of Conservation and Recreation, the state agency that owns and manages that dam, does an assessment, finds that it's unsafe, does nothing more from that. I was shocked. And that was in 2021.
They knew it was unsafe. They know it now.
It was their assessment. They know it now. So it's just sort of this urgent issue, really, that no one is working on. And then the fourth threat to the Charles, I would say, is climate change. More drought, more heat, more flooding. That's really, the damage is really to our communities.
So permeable surface or impermeable surface.
Anything you can do, it's called green infrastructure or nature-based solutions.
Okay.
Anything we can be doing to divert
So
water from...
but the four things, just the categories, are water flowing into the Charles that shouldn't be. It's coming off of streets and paved surfaces.
Yeah, and we've gotten away from the natural floodplains. Anything you can do to restore the natural hydrology. We're not going to get rid of our built environment.
Just want to see if I can remember
replicating
the
that.
four categories. So that's category number one. You've got sewage as a category. You had climate change and
dams.
Dams. Okay.
Remove those dams. Better for fish, better for safety, better for recreation.
And so what specifically can folks in the city of Newton do right now on these issues?
So I'm actually
what's
in touch
what's the low-hanging fruit?
I'm actually in touch with some counselors, and I've spoken with the mayor about this, and I was really excited that David Mickley, who my replacement,
Ward 2 ward council,
yeah,
your
so
successor.
Yeah, so he filed a budget resolution last year that called for hiring a climate resilience officer for the city, and that's more on the safety side, although the things you do for safety also help the health of the river. Basically, if you...
So what are the safety threats?
Well, the way I would look at it is we have people in the city whose jobs it is to protect us from threats that we understand. We understand threats of robberies. We have a police department. We have threats from fire. We have a fire department. We do not have anyone whose main job it is to protect people and property from flooding. And that is true in Newton. That's true in Needham. That's true in Watertown. That's true in Boston. Boston and Cambridge are more resourced, so they're a little bit better off. But it's a threat that people don't really understand that, wow, we built this stormwater system for storms of this size. The storms are now this size. We are not going to rebuild our stormwater system. So we really do want to be managing water differently. But if it's no one's job to look at development rules and heat maps and flood maps and not just make recommendations, but have new requirements. So just to really nerd out a little, Watertown and Waltham, for new development and major redevelopment, they require that new projects hold 100-year storms worth of water on site. So that's 8.78 inches over 24 hours. That's a big storm.
8.78 inches of rain. Oh, times the square footage of the lot.
Yeah, you have to hold that on site. Wherever feasible, I'm sure they've got special conditions periodically. We only require about 2 inches. So that is one major improvement that we could make, and there would be a cost. I'm sure developers would want to have a conversation.
Well,
but if they did it in Waltham and Watertown, we should be able to do it here. So that's a major.
For which kind of buildings?
I don't have on.
home?
I don't.
A single-family
Well,
house,
there's a certain
or-
property size, and that I don't have
Okay.
on the top of my head.
Probably 20,000 square feet. That seems to be the
That
magic
seems to be,
number.
yeah.
I think that under zoning, you need a special permit over 20,000 square feet.
So the reason our stormwater rules don't take into account flooding is because the stormwater rules are related to the Clean Water Act, which is about water quality. The pollution's only in that first inch of a rainstorm. It's the flooding that you want to have a more volume, but the Clean Water Act isn't about flooding. There's no major laws to give us leverage about flooding. So I know when I was on the city council at the end of my tenure, in fact, I still get calls, people are experiencing more and more flooding. Their basements, their streets, their yards.
Is this something better suited to being addressed at a local level, or should the Massachusetts legislature adopt a law?
Bingo, because the decisions made, if Wellesley decides to pave over their whole town, which they're not going to do, they're Wellesley, we will get more flooding here. Decisions made here affect downtown
Is there
Boston.
anything being considered by the
And there's
legislature now? Could we call our state representatives
It's funny
and
you
senators?
say that. We did work with Amy Sangiolo to file a bill that would create a regional governance solution. Basically, an example could be if the MWRA, that handles our sewage and our drinking water, if they wanted to take on stormwater, they would be very well suited to do that because they're already managing water on a regional basis. That's the problem. We don't have regional government. So we're at risk from what happens upstream, but there's no one's job. Let's say Wellesley did want to pave over their whole town. They're going to make $200,000 by some big pavement thing.
Right.
Well, maybe Waltham and Watertown would want to give them, $400,000 not to do it. We don't even know what they're doing.
Right.
Right?
There's no coordination.
There's no coordination. So this is a real gap in our governance. In other states, in other parts of the world, they do have flood
County
districts, county government, but even flood river basin commissions, flood districts. They have a way to say, and we were talking about
Out
this.
west, they have big regulation of how much water you can take out of that
Yeah,
river,
so we
and
don't want
fights
to
over it.
replicate everything that's happening elsewhere, but it's it's an urgent threat, really, because sea level rise is happening, storm surge is happening, but these large rainstorms, they could happen. It could be tomorrow. We don't have to wait. It's not the years of waiting for sea level rise, and it's inland. This is an inland threat, not just people think of flooding from climate change. They think of the coast, which is dire. If you read about the $6 million homes that are falling into the ocean in Nantucket, but this is a threat right here in Newton. We have lost, just one more point I'll make, we have lost over 80% of our wetlands. That's where the water is coming back to.
Wow.
When you think about, if you see those historical
The
maps.
wetlands historically would absorb some of that water surge.
Yes, and so I was.
And now
the-
we develop them. We push all the water.
I was the only vote against the new countryside school, and it's not that I don't think that neighborhood deserves a new school, but we're rebuilding it because it floods, and we're rebuilding it in the same location. A little bit different part of the site, but the whole area used to be a wetland, and that's where the water is coming back to. So it is my worry that we're going to regret that because as we have the bigger storms.
You're going to have some very wet fourth graders.
Well, you could. They did move the school to the higher site, even on a storm where the school's okay. It's very clear from their documents that the parking lot is not. So then you just flood out and have all the teachers and staff cars totaled, just like happened in that August storm at the Newton Free Library when every car, this is August 2023, including David Mickley's car, was totaled. The water came so quickly, people were in the library with their kids or reading a book. They come out, and you had the water up to here.
How many inches of rain was that?
It was like 4 feet of water.
Wow.
In the lot? Wow.
So this is, and we talk about flooding at Cheesecake Brook. If you really want to deal with flooding near the Gath Pool, you got to be looking upstream. There's the watershed, there's also a sub-watershed. Cheesecake Brook starts at Brayburn Country Club. So we should be doing flood storage at Brayburn Country Club. It goes underneath McGrath Field behind the old Warren Junior High. We should be doing flood storage there. And the city's starting to talk about it, but this is the mindset that we have not just Newton, none of our communities have had. We've thought, we got our stormwater pipes, we've put everything in a culvert, we've buried these streams, we're good. No, we're not good. It's like Jason with the mask.
I'm gonna let
Sorry,
Dan
I can go on and on
no,
about
I
it.
know, and you will. You'll get another minute. But you get but I want to hear from Dan. Dan, you're the chair of our local environmental group, Green Newton. Is there a committee? Is there a resolution? Is there a campaign? What is Green Newton doing on the water quality front on these issues? That
Green Newton addresses climate change mitigation much more than we do adaptation. And what Emily is talking about is adaptation. We have had a strong anti-pesticide movement, which keeps pesticides out of the river. But I don't think this has been one of Green Newton's main focus. I think the Newton conservators spend more time on this than Green Newton
so
does.
it's not that it's being neglected. It's people are.
I would like to say Green Newton has been a great partner in getting the word out about our projects. We have I spoke about the Gath Pool. We're actually working very closely with the city and helped get grant money for the city to do stormwater management and flood mitigation at Albemarle. So there's going to be a massive underground storage tank underneath Albemarle Field.
Oh,
and
good.
there's going to be a bunch of, if you look at Albemarle Road right now, there's a bunch of areas where you can see stormwater just goes directly into the river, and it's just a mowed grass lawn. It's not a natural, riverbank, and it's this straightened, channelized, it used to be a beautiful naturalized brook. So we're going to be bringing back some natural features, and Green Newton was actually a great partner. I mean, if people don't know something's happening and then they hear about it and they don't like it, that's bad for us. You helped get the word out so that people could come to the meetings and get engaged. So I was really appreciative of that.
Good. So there's drainage beneath the artificial turf that goes beneath the
turf
field.
that's coming.
The turf that's coming.
Right.
I think the construction's going on now. I passed there recently. So it drains beneath the artificial turf into that storage area.
Yeah, it'll be in these massive pipes, and the pipes will slowly go into the stormwater system to help address flooding.
Good.
Before we wrap up this topic, Emily, I want to ask you about, I told you to get another minute because I want
Love it.
to hear your thought on this. I always like to have some good news, right?
Yes.
So I remember when I was on the city council and there was literally Lyons Park, Lyons Field in Newton, sewage oozing up through the ground because basically, as I understand it, we had water inflowing into our sewage pipes and pushing the sewage out in what we called major storm events.
Right.
And since then, I know we did a lot of work on sealing up those pipes and putting, I guess, negative pressure in them so that they, if any, to avoid having
Yeah, a lot of the pipes were
leakage.
just had breaches in them, were broken.
Right.
So you had
So my
clean water.
my question is, just to cut to the chase, are we still having sewage leak within the
Not
city of
as
Newton?
far as I know. No, we are doing a great job. It's a lot of money. That's why we pay our sewer fee, our water fee, and our stormwater fee. Newton is one of a few communities in Massachusetts that has a stormwater fee, and people should be very happy that we have that because we have dedicated funding and it doesn't compete with schools and police and whatever. So we have funding to be able to maintain our system and make those improvements. So we had a situation where you had stormwater pipes, which are only supposed to have clean stormwater, but you have the sewage pipe near here. If they're both broken, you had the sewage sort of
The water
make its
would
way
just
in.
intermingle.
You also had clean rainwater seeping into the sewage pipe. So then we're paying, we pay Deer Island to deal with
By
the sewage.
volume, we
so
were
we'd
paying,
be
right.
paying clean water to be, so there's a cost to all that. So we're one by one. There are some
I know there was a
effects-
$20 million grant or loan or something. We did one section of the
Yeah, I
city,
don't
then
think
we
so.
did.
I think it's our money.
I think we did get, we bonded it or something?
Yes, so it's our money. But
Yeah, no, I think I thought there was some
it's
kind
like
of.
a 20-year plan. I could be wrong. I was on public facilities.
Right.
And it was a
At
year
one
and a half
point,
ago, so it's
at one
gone.
point, yeah, at one point we had some kind of loan that, or
And we do get grant
borrowing
money
or
from
something,
the MWRA was helpful in some areas, although I might be making.
But what
that
all I'm
up.
saying is that
Might be
as I recall, we did I think it was the south side of the city, and then we were gonna finish the
We are
north
one
side.
by one getting to every single one, but an impact that people did not sort of anticipate is that in some neighborhoods there's more flooding in people's basements because the groundwater that used to be seeping into the pipes
Isn't that?
no longer is. So I know near Nevada Street, it's getting
that's
I
interesting.
think Quinnipiquin Road. So you have, again, it's areas that were, naturally wetlands or more streams and so forth that are experiencing this. So it's an issue that we're going to have to figure out a way to deal with for people.
Well, I'm glad we have some good news on that front.
Could I sneak in
of
one quick
course.
question?
Sure.
If it hasn't rained for a few days, could we swim in the Charles and Newton?
Oh, I didn't answer that. So we grade the river every year, and the segment between Medfield to Waltham is the cleanest segment. So yes, if it hasn't rained in a while, it really is safe enough for swimming. The water quality.
But
Now,
but wait a second. If you can't drink it, and when you're swimming, you get some water in your mouth. Are you going to
no,
get sick
that's
from
okay.
that?
I mean, just like a lake or whatever. You wouldn't drink lake water.
Okay. When I say
this-
drink, I mean in
Yeah.
limited quantities.
Oh, no, that would be
You're
fine.
not going to get sick from a little bit getting in your mouth. It's not like high
No,
E.
I don't.
coli or anything
no,
like that.
so that's what we test for.
Yeah.
Boston, Cambridge, that area, and then the 495 area. It's basically wherever you have more development. That's the area because of the issues I've been talking about. That's where you have we graded
All
it
right.
like a B, B minus.
All
B
right,
plus.
it's time for topic number 3.
Okay.
I think we have lots of common ground on this, and same with the first one. We got all kinds of common
Wait,
ground
can I
tonight.
make one more? Except for the sediment. The sediment,
Sediment?
is still probably. That's where, heavy metals and.
Don't eat the sediment.
Don't eat the sediment.
You got
Yeah.
and heavy metal. It's not music. It's toxic. It's yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to, lead people on.
All right. I wanted to end with some good news, but
Okay,
all right.
okay.
No one's gonna eat the heavy metal, okay? All right, hopefully. All right, maybe, but don't eat the fish because the fish are probably consuming some of those heavy metals, right? Is that?
Well, there's still mercury from old coal plants. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I would just say, if you're gonna eat fish, go to the grocery store and get some, or go to Legal Seafood. Don't eat
that's
from the
probably-
Charles.
There's probably some things you want to look into for
Yeah,
that too.
yeah.
but
You probably don't want to eat the stuff from the Charles River, though. I would say, my humble opinion. But anyway.
Catch and release. Catch and
Yeah.
release.
All right. So yeah, let's go to our third topic because we got 3 little subtopics. We want to talk about, there's a lot of things happening in the country these days in Washington, D.C. We're not going to talk about 99% of them. But the one thing I do want to talk about is how those things are affecting Newton, not in terms of civil rights or school funding or healthcare or anything else, just in terms of the environment. And I want to throw out three subtopics, and let you weigh in on, Dan, I'll let you go first, on each of those three, on your thoughts. So the first is air pollution, the second is water pollution, and the third is climate change. And I think, by way of just context, this is even before the current administration, well, same president first time around, but wouldn't necessarily even blame him for this. I remember being out in Seattle, Washington, visiting my brother there in, I think, 2018, and I have a photo of this I was going to put up. And the air was so thick. It's the first, we were going to go backpacking.
Oh, from the fires?
Yeah, from the fires in California. We were out there 2 years in a row, and there was such thick air, you couldn't even go outside. I mean, this is Seattle. Basically, this is a photo I took from the Space Needle. This is just, like, you could not breathe outside. You had to go from museum to museum with a face mask on, as quickly staying inside an air-filtered, air-conditioned vehicle. It was, and we had planned on going on a backpacking trip, so Kelly and I went up to the mountains and we're like, no, we can't backpack here. We're there for the fresh air. There is no, it was like off the charts. I mean, it was like, there's like the green zone, the yellow, the orange. We're like all the way up into the purple and brown in terms of air quality. And this is our future if we don't deal with these issues. So my question is, how do we keep this from happening in Newton, and how are what's happened in Washington with these DOGE cuts and anything else? Is that going to affect us, to the best of your knowledge?
And so the question is air pollution, water pollution, and climate change.
Yeah, but
Some
if there's
easy ones.
Okay, anything that you think might be affected by what's going on in Washington?
I'm worried about air pollution only in the sense of big fires. On days when there aren't big fires, air pollution is just so much better than when I was a kid. I mean, growing up, there were days I couldn't see very far because air pollution was so bad. Air pollution is a major American success story. Sure, there are parts of the country and maybe parts of some of our urban areas where air pollution is problematic. But for the most part, we've tackled it. Now, not true with fires, not true out west, and we've even experienced a bit of that here. So that's a tiny worry for me. Water pollution, I'll leave that to Emily. Climate change, that's the biggest one. President Biden put us on the right track in many ways, and Trump is just doing as much as he can to dismantle what President Biden had done. And we were on a perilous track before, despite all of our effort. We're way into climate change. The science says we face absolute tragedy unless we meet our goals, and we're not meeting our goals. So the notion that Trump, just in the last day or two, he's going after state policies on climate change.
Saw those headlines.
And and he's attacking renewable energy. He's attacking energy efficiency, and he's setting us back. And I just don't understand. It's one thing I would think that everybody would be united on. We all have young people in our families that we need to protect, and yet it's just not a big enough issue in the American consciousness, and we elect somebody who believes that science is a hoax and that climate change is a hoax. So that's my take. It is.
So it's all looking up. Things are good. All right, good. Emily.
I'm going to differ a little bit on air pollution. There's a lot of data that anyone who lives within 500 feet of a highway faces more air pollution. I know on my weather app it shows the air quality, and it's not always great, even in Newton, because I live within 500 feet of the Mass Pike. So that was something that was going in a better direction thanks to emission rules, which Trump is trying to reverse. I mean, he's put a climate denier in front of the, in charge of the EPA, chemical lobbyists. I mean, it's
The one who wants to change the name of the agency or something.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Sorry. Oh no, it was. I think maybe it was Musk who said, "Oh, you can tell what an agency does because it's the opposite of its name."
Right.
And that was the comment about.
Okay.
Sorry, go
Yeah,
on.
wonderful comment.
Yeah.
So I think we could see some bad. And the thing with air pollution is that if you're being affected, you're not going to know. You're not going to know that your asthma, your COPD, your respiratory disease of whatever kind, is exacerbated by, the air pollution in your neighborhood as well as indoor air pollution like from gas stoves. So that is somewhere where we're definitely much better than we were, but we need to keep making progress. Water, it's the Supreme Court and the Trump administration are actively seeking and in some cases succeeding in weakening the Clean Water Act, which is why we don't have rivers catching on fire anymore and so forth. I mean, that's why we have a cleaner harbor.
Anyone can
river.
Google it, by the way. Cleveland River fire.
Yeah,
Just
the Cuyahoga River. What's interesting about that is a lot of people don't realize it didn't just catch on fire once. It caught on fire chronically for over 100 years. I like to remind people that because that's like,
people think water can't burn.
humans need the 2x4 between the eyes. So, but anyway, and then there's things that people don't know. This is sort of a larger theme with this decimating of the federal government. There's things that the federal government do that people aren't aware of. So Trump is trying to slash the funding and close the U.S. Geological Survey building in.
And NOAA, of course. Which
yeah, but among the things they do is they provide elevation maps and impervious cover maps that we use for our data. They have stream water flow gauges in the Charles and all of our waterways across Massachusetts that we use for when is there a drought, when is there a flood. Developers use it.
Farmers use this stuff.
Farmers use. So we're all relying on this stuff that we're not even aware of. And he just, they want to slash the staff by a third. They say that they can't use their credit cards for more than they're not going to be able to do their work. And which is, so there's things that affect the clean water. And then in terms of climate change, if you look at the polling data, people do support clean air. Clean water polls like the highest, actually, drinking water in particular. But you're right, when it comes to how they vote, it's the economy. People generally vote for, but that's why I am not completely down in the dumps. Is if you polled people and they're like, air, water, who cares? I'd be like, all right, we're all going to die. But knowing that people do support this, when things get bad enough, like when a river of water catches on fire, people do step up.
Hopefully we won't get back to that point.
It's about issue 15.
Yeah.
Say it again.
People care about climate change, but it's about issue 15.
Right. So we need
Well,
to.
I just want. We only have a couple minutes left. Obviously, there's a lot of common ground on these topics.
Yes, there is.
This panel was not set up for a lot of disagreement. It is what it is. But I will say that the cuts that are being made both to personnel, human resources, and to budgets illegally by this supposedly advisory body, DOGE, that they're taking things that were appropriated by Congress, funds, and cutting them, firing people. And the problem is, those things take a while to work their way through the court system, and there are orders to restore things. It doesn't necessarily happen. The damage is irrevocable to these institutions, which are doing valuable work, not only to prevent climate change and to regulate polluters, but also to provide the data and the information needed for the next round of science. And by the way, and just defunding scientists that are doing work. And so for everyone who wants a panacea to deal with climate change, a great new invention, well, the scientists aren't going to be funded to do that. So, and not that there ever will be a panacea, but there are incremental things that science can accomplish. We're not going to be doing those. We're not going to be doing the mitigations of the impacts. We're not going to be protecting the human beings and families and farmers and workers that are being affected by air quality in their workplaces and in their homes, and by water pollution, and ultimately by the destruction of the human ecosystem that we live and operate in and work in, and the cost of treating a child for a lifetime with an ailment is so much greater than it would have been to prevent that ailment in the first place. So it looks like we're running out of Dan Ruben, and to the fabulous people here at NewTV, to Shane, who was our director, who did a great job tonight, and to Oksana, and to everyone else here at NewTV, to Peter, and most of all to you at home for watching. Please join us again next time when we try to find just an incy-weensy, teensy bit more common ground.